I was trying to record an intro to this video, and then I noticed got a little foreshadowing going on in the background. Hello, welcome to the IFA 101. I wasn't planning on making this so early, but as it turns out, Hoyo has decided to be benevolent for a little bit and is actually rerunning their new 4 stars in decent amounts of time. And what better time to run him than the banner directly after a new 5-star who is incredibly synergistic with this kit. Wait, that's not the best time to run him. That's like the worst time you could ever. That's right, I tricked you. This is secretly my 4th ineffa video in a row. In all seriousness, yeah, this is still the IFA video. But ineffa is such a strong unit that fits so well into IFA's niche that I am gonna have to take a decent chunk of this video's runtime to talk about her. But let's just start with IFA. IFA's kit is extremely simple, to the point where 2 of his 3 active skills are essentially not worth thinking about. Well, the burst does get a little bit better with constellations, but the normal attacks never become relevant. He is a ranged Anemo Catalyst user, and he gets all the inherent benefits that come with that combination. But beyond that, they're nothing to write home about. The numbers are fairly low, and the animation can be a little long. Big whoop. His burst is pretty simple. It does a big hit of Anemo damage, followed by a very small amount of grouping, and if that Anemo damage hits a swirlable element, it'll do another instance of damage of that element. It's Hazo's burst again. They just did Hazo's burst again. Hazo has smaller numbers but a shorter cooldown. IFA has bigger numbers and a longer one. His burst does become a little bit more useful at C4, and this is something that I'm going to come back to. C4 extends the length of the grouping effect to 3 seconds, and it also gives IFA 100 EM after he uses it, which, as we'll get into, EM is a stat that IFA wants in his main intended playstyle. In fact, it's pretty much the only stat he wants. His burst does have a decent multiplier attached to it, but I'm gonna get sick of saying this soon enough. As I'll get into, that usually doesn't matter. And there we go, that's it. His normal attacks are normal attacks. His burst is a burst. So let's talk about his skill, which is essentially where his entire kit is. He jumps in the air. If you tap the normal attack button, he'll shoot an auto attack at the nearest enemy. By holding the button, you can aim, but it still has a lock-on effect. These shots apply Anemo and therefore swirl every other hit. But more importantly, they heal the entire team when they land. And maybe you noticed my healing, only 588. This is not because my IFA has a bad build, this is just how low his healing is. Unlike the damage, which scales on his attack, this healing scales on IFA's EM. This is my normal IFA build, I'm at 821 EM, I have a crowned skill, and I have a healing bonus circlet equipped. Altogether, this is a pretty heavily optimized healing build on IFA. Aside from getting constellations, there aren't many ways I can increase his healing further. IFA's healing is just really low. For my first video about IFA, I pretty much spent the entire time talking about that healing and how he relates to Furina, because of course Furina is a unit that makes fantastic use of healing. Instead of being a regular old defensive utility, she converts healing that your team receives into a full party damage percent buff. I'm just gonna keep it 100% real here. IFA is not a very powerful unit. If you want him to work particularly well, you're gonna need to put a lot of time and investment into him. And when I made that video, investment meant Furina. She turns his healing from some kind of neat thing that he can do on the side to an actual functional part of his kit. But now we have ineffa, who offers a bit of an alternative to Furina. Ineffa and Furina each represent sort of a cornerstone of IFA teams. Essentially, you want one or the other. You don't need both. Although you can play both, and yeah, it'll be really strong. Anyways, that's just me saying my piece. I won't be talking so much about IFA's healing this whole time, because now that ineffa exists, his healing isn't so all-encompassing. It doesn't say so much about his power. Anyways, let's talk about the other 2 talents. A1 pretty solidly defines what IFA is supposed to be doing. When IFA is in the Night Soul's Blessing state, every 1 Night Soul point out of the total in his entire party will grant him 1 Rescue Essentials point. This is Hoyo word jargon. It's a damage bonus to certain reactions. Swirl, Electrocharge, and Lunarcharge. So there it is. He's a Swirl and Electrocharge unit. You get a bunch of Electro and Hydro off-fielders together, you get him on field, and you fly around and shoot things. He triggers some swirls, he triggers some Electrocharges, he heals the whole party. So there's your explanation as to why EM is kind of the only stat he wants. He uses it to heal, and he uses it to trigger reactions and get a lot of swirl damage. Just to give a little impression of how it works. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Doesn't take much thought or effort. Get him, ineffa. Oh my god, you didn't crit. I think it speaks for itself. A few more notes about this passive. Probably the most important thing is that it tracks current Night Soul points, not Night Soul capacity. So like Aoife starts at 80 Night Soul points when he uses his E, but as he's in the air, he slowly drains Night Soul, and his buff, that is based on current Night Soul, is slowly going down. Most Natlan units are just like Aoife in this sense. They fill up their bar, and it will slowly drain over time, ending when the bar is empty. The only exceptions being Varesa and Kinich, who both build Night Soul towards getting a big hit. Although Varesa, I know Kinich has a very low total. He only totals at 20 Night Soul, I believe. Oh yeah, at 40, they both have very low totals. Both of these types of Night Soul consumption pose a problem for a unit that wants to have the entire party at as high a Night Soul total as possible. They start off with high amounts of Night Soul, but fall off pretty quickly. There are only 2 units that can regenerate Night Soul while off field. Number 1 is Eon-san, and while you may be able to keep her Night Soul high in an Aoife team, he's not built for talent damage. He's mostly doing reaction damage. So the attack percent buff that Eon-san gives is not going to be useful for your team. The only other character that can regenerate Night Soul off field is Ororon. Okay, well, technically Seat Lolly gets Night Soul points from triggering Night Soul bursts or triggering melts, but like whatever. They're not supposed to be her main sources of getting Night Soul. Ororon has a lot of different ways of getting Night Soul points and consistently keeps a very high total throughout his rotation. And oh yeah, what do you have to do to trigger Ororon's damage? You gotta do electrocharge damage. Or lunarcharged. I guess they just added that. That's cool. All that to say, these two were made for each other. Ororon works perfectly fine without Aoife, but they do have some nice synergy, and Aoife has direct incentive to run Ororon in his teams. Now, I've been talking about this passive for this whole long time, but it's not actually that good. This is not what you're building your teams around. You shouldn't be looking to max out Field Medic's vision, your rescue essential points. This is more of a nice extra thing that Aoife gets. Another tiny bit of damage on top of the rest of his kit. Ascension 4 passive. It gives him 80 EM for 10 seconds after triggering a Night Soul burst. I don't know, it's just stats. He just gets stats. And now I would like to give a shout out to one of the most impactful exploration talents in the game. Tactical Warm Compress Bandaging, my goat. He automatically heals your on-fielder if they drop below 40% HP. It only works in Natlan, and Natlan is about to be over. So that kind of sucks. But this passive has actually saved me like several times. I love this passive, it's incredible. He's an animal on-fielder, does some res shred, does some swirl damage, heals full party, buffs reaction damage a tiny bit. Yippee is what I would be saying if I were done. Because guess what? Aoife has 2 playstyles. This is where we're all gonna have to collectively come together, hold hands for a moment, and come to the reality that Aoife is just not all that good. What loser just said Aoife wasn't good? He's fine, he works, he's good in his niche, he is more than usable. But frankly, he does not provide much of an upgrade to his dedicated teams. And hey, would you look at that? That attack scaling on his skill? It's not half bad. It's not incredible. It's not standout by any means. But this is a real multiplier. You can work with this. And wait, Aoife's from Natlan, right? So doesn't that mean he gets access to Codex? What? What's going on? Let's just do it. Let's just get it over with. It's certainly nothing crazy, but it's not bad. And this introduces us to Aoife's 3rd secret and forbidden team. It's DPS Aoife. Yeah, I mean, it's DPS Aoife. It's not crazy. And honestly, I would say that Swirl Driver healing Aoife, his intended kit design, and DPS Aoife are about the same level of strength. He has a niche, but he is so middling in this niche that you don't really lose anything by ignoring his kit and doing something else. I'm gonna lie to myself and say that it's not mediocrity, it's flexibility. Aoife is flexible enough that he has 2 different competitive team options. And unfortunately, that means the trifecta of Aoife teams all rely on limited 5 stars. For lunarcharge, you need ineffa. For regular electrocharge, you need furina. And for DPS, you need C6 faruzan. Unfortunately, that just is the current state of animo units in Genshin. They're trying to deal reasonable animo damage, you need faruzan, and you need her C6. There are odd things you can do with like on-fielding her to reduce her energy requirements, but I don't want to get into that. Faruzan is such a complex unit. In general, you probably want to hold off on using her unless she's C6. She makes so much sense, she is so much easier to build. Faruzan is insane and helps Aoife pump his numbers to what you were seeing. Before I push forward to the teams, let's look at all the other stuff in the character menu. Starting with constellations. I had to bring up DPS Aoife first because it's really funny. His constellations pretty much affect both of his playstyles equally. C1 is energy, it's useless, don't think about it. C2 increases the cap and the scaling on his A4 buff, giving a larger buff to the 3 mentioned reactions, Swirl, Electrocharge, and Lunarcharge. This constellation is a fine DPS upgrade, and even if you're building him for damage and you aren't playing him in a team that triggers a lot of swirls and electrocharges, you still get to benefit from it a little bit. Not very much, but a little bit. C3, it's skill levels. For DPS Aoife, that's more talent scaling. For driver Aoife, that's more healing. Everybody wins. Already talked about C4 a little bit. Extra grouping from the burst is really nice. 100 EM is valuable for the driver playstyle, not so much for the DPS playstyle. Then in the opposite direction, C4 buffs the burst's utility, C5 buffs its damage, which that is a big multiplier. If you're building for damage, you can get this number to actually be kind of high. Mine is only level 6, but you'll probably see some decent numbers out of it. Definitely past the 100k mark. Not that that's particularly difficult anymore. Anyways, C6, said it in the original video, I'll say it in this one. Unfortunately, his best constellation. When he lands his shots, when he's flying around in his skill, he'll get a 50% chance to fire an extra shot, deals 120% of his attack scaling. At talent level 10, this attack scaling is 240, so C6's attack is half of that. Half the attack's value on a 50% chance is around a 25% damage increase to his DPS playstyle from this. It's a little bit less with the talent levels from C3, but whatever. For the more supportive playstyle, those hits count towards the ICD of his skill, so getting more hits means more swirls. Those hits also trigger healing, so if you're running Furina, that's more fanfare generation. And it has a little exploration effect tacked to the end. Overall, very good constellation that is useful in all of his playstyles. All in all, I would say he has pretty good cons. If you like Aoife and you want to use him long term, you're happy to get them. They're good upgrades, but he has a more than functional baseline. Anyways, other stuff. His artifact set, he pretty much has 2 options. You're running Codex for DPS, or you're running VV for the supportive playstyle. Codex is a full damage build, I've got him on attack, animo, crit. VV is full EM, although of course I go EM healing bonus. I'd say that if you're running him with Furina, you probably want healing bonus over an EM circlet. His healing is very low, this helps him out, he's able to generate more fanfare, and in Furina teams, more fanfare generation is going to get you more overall damage than building maximum EM to get Aoife's swirl damage up. I have been playing around with the thought of Desert Pavilion Aoife. 2-piece gets a animo damage bonus, 4-piece gives a buff when charge attacks hit, 10% attack speed, 40% more damage bonus. And let's bring out the crowned Mika here. This is what I did this for. This is what all that investment was for. You can see that Aoife's shots do scale with attack speed. Realistically, I don't think this set will actually be better than Codex, because Jesus Christ, does Codex just give a ton of stats. It's mostly just a fun little pet theory, and if you somehow have a Desert Pav set and don't have a Codex set farmed, great, I guess you can use Desert Pav on him. I've mostly just been thinking about Desert Pavilion a lot recently. Very funny set. Although now that I'm here, I do want to mention, there actually is a little bit of a bug with Aoife regarding attack speed. After he jumps in the air and you start holding your attack button, he'll do a normal tap shot before starting to aim. I don't know, it's just this weird delay and it causes you to miss out on the extra shots that you would have gotten from the attack speed buff. I sent it into Hoyo's like bug report department and they hit me with one of those generic like, hey, did you try turning it off and back on questions? And I should push through because, fun fact, I actually got one of Aoife's bugs fixed, where if you were outside of the range of Ororon's like lightning bolt passive, even if you entered Ororon's range, he wouldn't start doing his lightning bolt attacks. I can put up the video, I just have to dig it out of my like Discord or whatever. I found this bug, I recorded it, and I pestered Hoyo about it until they fixed it. And you can see now, same exact setup. Look at that! Now it's fixed. Now Ororon is doing his lightning bolts here. So you're welcome, guys. I am the savior of Aoife, and now I need to report this other bug so that hopefully it'll get fixed. Anyways, let's look at the weapons. For the weapons, we have a very similar story to the artifacts. Got more than 2 options, but they're pretty cleanly segregated into the DPS options and the supportive options. Some supportive standouts. Most notable is probably Hakushin. Main stats don't really matter, we're mostly here for the passive. It's essentially Scroll, but it only works for Electro. He triggers an Electro Swirl, you get a 20% buff to Electro, and a 20% buff to Anemo. Triggers an Electrocharge, that's 20% to Hydro and Electro. And he can do this pretty easily in his Electrocharge teams. Let's grab Ineffa for ease of testing. Let's get an Electro and Hydro R on the enemy at the same time. Aoife does a normal attack. It's a little hard to see exactly. You see these 2 identical numbers here, one blue, one purple, with just one Anemo application. I triggered an Electro Swirl and a Hydro Swirl. Swirl also applies the element that you swirled, so Aoife swirling Hydro onto Electro will trigger Electrocharge and get you your Hydro damage bonus. That's kind of a roundabout thing, but I feel like I needed to explain it eventually. Pretty important mechanic to taser using an Anemo on fielder, and this property lets Aoife use Hakushin Ring very, very well. Your second buffing option is Wandering Evenstar. I'll just say it right at the gate, this one is worse than Hakushin Ring, but this is actually the one that I choose more often. It has an EM substat, which Aoife cares about, and it converts the user's EM to a very small full party attack buff. It is a very small buff. This does not give you many stats at all until higher refines, but it gives Aoife EM, and that makes my brain happy. And then of course, we have Prototype Amber. Aoife's healing is not particularly great. In Furina teams, Prototype Amber provides a nice chunk of front-loaded healing, generates a little bit of extra fanfare, gets the rest of your team dealing a little bit more damage. After that, you have weapons like Fav and Sack Frags, where neither are particularly great, but they both have utility. Fav is Fav, energy good. As for Sack Frags, it pretty much has a dead passive on Aoife, but it gives a nice smack of EM in the substat. Now when it comes to DPS Aoife, we of course have the Kings of Standard, with Lost Prayer and Lost Prayer for gambling addicts. As for other weapons, Flowing Purity is always a nice generic DPS option, easily obtainable by crafting, and it has a mechanic where you get a Bond of Life that you have to heal off, and wouldn't you know it, on fielding Aoife heals himself a little bit. Neither of the Battle Pass weapons are particularly great for him, with Sack Jade mostly buffing HP and Solar Pearl requiring you to hit with a skill to buff normal attacks. Neither are great. All the 5 stars are mostly attack stat sticks. Thousand Floating Dreams is actually a decent supportive weapon, gives a ton of EM to the equipper, and gives some damage bonus to your off-fielders. The rest of the others is kind of just like, use what you have, with Wanderer and Risley's Sig standing out in particular. They both essentially do the same thing of normal attack, damage, and speed buffing, with the difference that Risley needs your HP to fluctuate to get that buff, which Aoife does his own healing. So Furina is the far more consistent option to drain your HP, but just getting hit and using Aoife's inherent healing is also enough. Not consistent, not something I am suggesting you should do, but it works. I believe that is everything. Sunny Morning Sleeping gives him a ton of EM, not particularly worth it, because EM doesn't do a ton on him. And don't use Moonglow or Jadefall. And if you got Memory of Dust, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, before I forget, Surf's Up is actually like a weirdly okay option on him. It gives you stacks that increase your normal attack damage that regenerate upon triggering Vaporizes. And like I just mentioned when I was talking about Hakushin Ring, swirls can trigger other reactions. So it's like not impossible to get a setup where Aoife is triggering Vaporizes to keep the passive of this weapon up. but it's not gonna be easy, and it's probably also not consistent. But it like is an option. It's a funny little option if you have it. Okay, last thing before teams. I need to talk about these 3 Freakazoids. Because Taser isn't a very strong archetype, you kind of need to bring units who can do a lot of stuff for it. And of course, the 2 main units who do this are Furina and Ineffa, and to a lesser extent, Ororon. Furina does a lot of buffing through her burst, translates Aoife's healing into fanfare. We went over all this. Ineffa just does a lot of damage straight up. She transforms Electrocharge into Lunarcharge, which is a little bit more consistent in its damage, but it's not much of a big difference. Her talent damage is most of what's on the table here. She also provides some very small utilities in her EM buff, which will increase Aoife's healing and reaction damage, and the fact that she has a shield. Aoife is not a particularly squishy unit, but if he gets knocked out of the air, he doesn't outright die, but he goes into this animation that loses you a lot of time. So getting hit, generally something you want to avoid. And then finally there's Ororon, who is kind of a halfway version between Ineffa and Furina. He has pretty decent talent damage that gets fairly strong in AoE, and his ability to hold scroll makes him a somewhat proficient buffer. He even has a little defensive utility thing in his burst. It acts as a taunt, nowhere near as good as Ineffa's shield, but it is a thing that he has. A little bit of damage, a little bit of buffing, tiny bit of defense. And as aforementioned, regular synergies with Aoife's kit. Oh, and also this buff to Lunarcharge damage, it also affects the what is essentially talent damage in Ineffa's kit. So that's nice, that's cool. It's not just reaction damage. Anyways, I really need to focus more on these 2, because while they are both very strong Aoife teammates for the aforementioned reasons, they are incompatible with each other. I'm gonna be saying this so much throughout the early days of Nodcry, but because the majority of her damage doesn't actually scale on the damage percent stat, Furina becomes a lot worse because a large part of her power budget is being able to buff damage percent. They're still both very good units in their own right, and therefore worth running on Aoife's teams together, but I found that Ineffa provides a great opportunity for me to skip out on Furina and use her in other teams that want her more. Or you could do the alternative of using just Furina and putting Ineffa somewhere else. But I find that Ineffa's general damage, buffs, and quality of life are so good that I much prefer taking Furina out of Aoife teams than her. We have these 2 units who both on their own have great synergy with Aoife, but don't have synergy with each other. And Ororon doing a little bit of both. He has the same issues as Furina, he buffs damage percent, but Ineffa doesn't use damage percent. But Ororon's buff is in his artifact set, so you can just swap him out to Noblesse, and he'll have lower personal damage, but better synergy with the rest of the team. Anyways, as I see it, these 2 kind of create the dichotomy of Aoife teams. Furina teams, where you are utilizing his entire kit, you have him built fully as a healer, and Ineffa teams, where he is a comfy, synergistic on-fielder that gives your Ineffa a little bit of a buff. They're not mutually exclusive, but I tend to only run one or the other. I think I'm done recording for the day, so I will probably do a lot of the recordings for the teams tomorrow.
Let's hope you pull up a good fight.
Wait. Hold on, what? I have voices turned off. And these guys are still yelling at me? Sure, why not? Okay, it is 3 days later, I believe. I did a little bit of wishing on the banner for some Aoife copies, and I got them. But now this thing also exists. And I don't know what to do with it. I think I am going to take a little bit to look at and test these constellations, talk about how I have felt their exact impact, but sort of going off the back of what I was talking about regarding Ineffa, Furina, and Ororon. One thing I kind of half failed to mention, half straight up ignored, and there might be a lot of confusion around it, so I just want to talk a little bit more about this passive. Counts total Night Soul points in the party, again, not capacity of Night Soul points, just total current Night Soul points. Aoife starts at 80, slowly goes down. Ororon has a max of 80. At C0, you generally will not be maxing this passive out, at least for very long, because both Aoife and Ororon's Night Soul need to be completely full for that to happen. Even if you assume full uptime, which is very, very generous, bonus. The swirl and electrocharge bonuses get to 225%, and the lunarcharge damage bonus gets to 30%. Now these are two very different numbers with two very different impacts. To get an idea for this, let's just look at his EM multiplier. With his current 260 EM, he boosts electrocharge and swirl by 185%, while only buffing lunarcharge for around 70%. Now this isn't really that important when it comes to the lunarcharge reaction. It's much more relevant when we start talking about lunarcharged talent damage, because Aoife's buff applies to this damage. That is what makes Aoife and Ineffa worth using together. Aoife has one of the only buffs in the game that affects lunarcharge damage, and he basically needs Ororon to keep that buff high throughout an entire rotation. Let's take a look at C2 here. At base, it increases the passive's cap by 50, from 150 to 200, and also Night Soul points above 60 will count 4 towards that total of 200. Again, Ororon is very commonly above 60 Night Soul. He hovers at around 70 depending on the team. So he already meets the condition of 60, and then every Night Soul point past that will count for 4. In which case you only need to have 35 more Night Soul points to cap out the passive at 200. Between Aoife and Ororon, you're probably gonna have that. It takes Aoife over half of his rotation to drop to 35 Night Soul points, and even when that happens, Ororon will probably have 70 or 80. So he can easily make up for the rest. That's just something I wanted to mention. I didn't know if it was clear in my earlier recordings. Aoife is, to my knowledge, the only character in the game who can provide a damage percent buff to Ineffa's main source of damage. Other characters can buff EM, buff attack, even buff crit, but nobody buffs lunarcharge damage percent except for Aoife. Oops. And he needs Ororon to keep that buff maxed out for a long period of time. Other Natlan units can do it, but Ororon is the best at it. So throw him on Noblesse, he can do a little bit of extra buffing and do some damage while he's at it. And C2 has kind of made me realize that I don't think I fully gave Ororon the justice that he deserves. So let me talk a little bit more about him. When it comes to Furina teams, when you're not running Ineffa, you don't really care that much about this buff when it's only concerned with regular electrocharge and swirl. It doesn't do nothing, but it's also not strong enough that you would actively consider building a team around it. So in Furina teams, you don't need Ororon to max out that buff because it just doesn't matter that much, but you probably want him anyways, because he still does significant damage and buffing on his own, and by putting Furina in the team, you're meeting the requirements for him to do that damage and buffing. So even if you're not including him to make that passive stronger, you're including him because he's just a solid unit in the slot. And he also makes that passive stronger, which again, doesn't hurt, it's just not what you're looking for. Anyways, let's actually look at some teams. Actually, maybe I'll just start off with this, because I feel like it's kind of gonna be the default that most people ask me to do. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go against Abyss. Because we can. Because this Abyss feels good with an Ineffa. Yeah, that's right, we're Abyss testing. Second side will be the brand new Mualani. Wahoo. Ooh, 80 EM. Maybe I can clear with the suspicious teams that I was practicing.
Care for a dance? Dance with me! The show's only just begun.
Oh, and now I have C4 Aoife, so I have to burst before starting my rotation, because it buffs EM and it does grouping.
Your sacrifice is
I'm not used to not having... I just tried to burst at the end of my rotation there with Aoife. I'm not used to that happening.
Care for a dance? Dance with me! I'm not hurting me.
sacrifice is ready.
Okay, cool. Crocodile's dead. And we got a 58? 858? That's a minute 2 second clear? That's pretty nice. Was Ineffa doing a lot of the work? Yes. But she was getting buffed by Aoife. Aoife was there. Aoife was doing work. I also want to redo that because I want to know if the second thing that I checked is true. I'm going to take this card because it doesn't interfere with what I want to test. With C3, my Aoife was breaking even on Furina's healing. Let me check if I have that here. I should, between C4 giving an extra 100 EM. between, you know, the talent levels, between the buff from Ineffa. Oh yeah, easily keeping up. Everyone's staying at full. Even Furina, which is crazy. Oh, where's that crocodile? Where's that crocodile? Okay, crocodile gone.
Dance with me.
Look at that. Look at that. He's HP positive.
Not done yet. I'm getting
Your sacrifice is right.
Now I kind of want to see how fast I can get this clear to be. And my electrocharge procs. That's funny. My the reaction procs actually aren't that far off of the damage that Ineffa is doing. It's like 25Ks versus 37Ks. It's okay. Maybe it is a little bit far off, but it's not as far off as you would think. So now I have found out that Xinyan auto-targets the fruits, but if she hits the fruits, they won't count as an enemy and she won't get her level 3 shield. So this is the worst scheme ever made. I'm not going to clear this side. I think I'm just going to stick to the first one, because that will take too long. Of course we're going to have to take this with a grain of salt, because this is the Ineffa Abyss. The enemy lineup and buff are specifically made for her. But considering how good Aoife is with Ineffa, I don't mind him riding her coattails too much. Let's see what this clear happens in. Ah, it wasn't faster. It was not faster. I'm just gonna try to get a sub 1 minute clear. Let's see how this happens.
there for a dance. Dance with me. The show's only just begun.
Remembering to burst. Jesus Christ, all the numbers.
At least
Journey ends
here to watch.
Gotcha.
Where's the crocodile? Crocodile is running away.
Dance with me. Be a good audience, Will.
Journey ends. Your sacrifice is ready.
Come on, sub 1 minute. Let's go, sub 1 minute. Yeah, that wasn't even difficult. Aoife and Ineffa are quite good together. Who would have expected this? Even though, as I mentioned, there is that anti-synergy between Ineffa and Furina. Furina's damage bonus doesn't buff Ineffa, and Ineffa's defensive utility isn't healing, so it doesn't help Furina. Despite their asymmetry, these two are being held together by Aoife and Ororon. Each of them buff their respective unit, Aoife Ineffa, Furina Ororon. They do a little bit of damage, Aoife does a little bit of healing. Everyone's happy, we're all having a great time. And while my Aoife is doing some nice full party healing, he is able to keep up with Furina. That's only because I've min-maxed his healing. And now, my theory has finally been proven. With a few constellations, Aoife can easily keep up with Furina's drain. He does need the constellations and kind of a min-maxed build, and maybe an external EM buff, I don't know. I guess I could just test without as well. Do Beto here. But I imagine he will do fine without Ineffa's EM buff. 231 ER. Is that enough on Beto? Who knows? This character is... Ooh, this character is something. I've started using her more in this Abyss because, you know, I can. And like, girl, I do really love you. I think you're wonderful. You were the first unit that I really ever built. And you're a lot of fun. But Jesus Christ, the energy needs. They're disgusting. I do not remember them being this bad. We'll see if this works. We'll see if 230 ER on Beto is enough. I will lose my mind if it's not. Because you also have to like get the parry to get the full buff. Or the full particles, which I have done now, so. I also forgot to burst on Aoife. Incredible. I can do it now. It's just wasting a little bit of time.
Your journey ends here. Lord of Sand. Your sacrifice is ready.
Oh my god, wait! She has enough energy! Oh god, alright, you know what? I've messed up. I really messed up my rotations. And also, I think I chose the EM thing, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change to this buff, so Aoife's healing is unaffected.
Care for a dance? Dance with me! The show's only
Ooh. God, the burst before skill makes him feel a little bit clunkier. It's what you should do, so like don't skip it just because it feels clunky, but it I don't enjoy it personally. Here we go. Oh, I got cryo, so my normal attacks are slower. But the healing is still keeping up a decent amount.
Your sacrifice is ready.
I forgot to burst again. I'll burst now. Okay. So we've gotten around 15 seconds slower comparing Beto to Ineffa. Still very much clearing comfortably, clearing within the time limit, and Aoife's healing seems to be good, and we don't need Ineffa to carry us through this part. And before anybody points it out, yes, I know there is a 75% damage bonus to electrocharge, but that doesn't mean anything. Aoife, with his full EM build at 800, is getting a 465 boost to electrocharge damage. Let's see if I can find a character who has enough EM that matches. Jones getting 61 at 80 EM. It's gonna be like 100-ish EM. This is a far more impactful buff for the lunarcharge damage. Because let's go to Ineffa, who I think, yeah, she has a decent amount of EM, 290. Oh, perfect, she's getting 76%. So for electrocharge, this buff is worth about 100 EM, but for lunarcharge, it's worth around 300. Ineffa's multiplier, 65%. That has a secret ×3 multiplier because I guess it just does. Lunarcharge damage gets to deal 3 times the damage as anything else. That's 195% of her attack. 195% of Ineffa's attack is more than the base damage of electrocharge, whatever electrocharge is. I guess I can look that up. Electrocharged is base damage for a level 90 character is 2,893. Although she has a higher base attack weapon, 2,413 times 1.95 is 4,705. That is not accounting for crit. That is not accounting for any damage bonuses. The base damage of this attack is by default around 1,600 higher than the base damage of electrocharge. And lunarcharge base damage is even lower. And this can crit, this can get affected by other things. So the lunarcharge damage buff is worth about 3 times as much as the electrocharge buff, and you're starting at a much higher floor. The electrocharge buff is worth next to nothing. I mean, even looking at his kit, although I don't actually think I mentioned the numbers when he gets C2 and the max is 200, he buffs for 40% lunarcharge damage and 300% swirl and electrocharged. He buffs lunarcharge way less than he buffs electrocharged because buffs to electrocharged do a lot less than buffs to lunarcharged. Anyways, sidetrack over, I guess. I just showed that Beto works in this abyss and also in Aoife teams. Although I don't know how long I'm going to stay with electrocharged and lunarcharged. They excel in similar circumstances, and Ororon buffs her, while also doing a little bit of batterying her, and good lord, does she need batterying. Because I think I've talked about most of the things that I really would want to go over. You have Ineffa teams, you have Furina teams, Ororon slots well into both of them. You want either Ineffa or Furina as your first slot. Ororon fits very well into both of those teams, but you don't need to use him, he's just nice to have. And he only becomes significantly relevant to Ineffa if you have C2 Aoife, but he's still a fine option without it. After that, your fourth slot can pretty much be whoever you want as long as they're off field. Yelan, Xingqiu, Beto I just showed off, Fischl. Although if you're not running an Ineffa, you might want to run someone like Beto, who's playing Aoife without a shielder. It's really rough. It is really rough. I've been doing some Aoife runs against this first side of Abyss without a shielder, and it's just something. Although to be fair, I was doing DPS Aoife, which is a little more restrictive. I've always sold electrocharge teams as kind of do whatever the hell you want, and that hasn't changed. Get some solid units that make a backbone of a team, get a ton of other guys who just deal damage. In this circumstance, Aoife makes the solid backbone with either Furina or Ineffa. I don't know, is there anything else that I really particularly care to try out right now? I did a lot of Aoife testing in my first Ineffa video if you want to look at that. So I think I actually will just leave the pure electrocharge version of the video here. I want to talk about something that is maybe a little bit insane. Ororon needs to leave, sadly, we can't have him here. I've recently been doing this sort of team, mostly with Lanyan instead of Aoife. Lanyan is maybe a little bit more fun, but Aoife brings healing. Lanyan's shield doesn't actually do anything here because we already have an Ineffa. Between the two of them, you get a nice spread of defense. In any case, it's just doing a little bit of animo talent damage while also fulfilling the requirements for Ineffa to make a good team. Everyone here does a little bit of damage, a little bit of utility. Healing and buffing, shielding and buffing, buffing and damage, buffing and damage. And for here, you actually have two options. You could go on Codex, which is obviously the damaging option for Aoife. And in that case, Faruzan is probably going to be on VV because you want a res shredder for Yelan and Ineffa. Or you could do Faruzan on a supportive set like what I'm gonna do here, scroll. She's gonna swirl Electro and Hydro and get a 12% damage bonus to the entire team. And then I'm putting Aoife on a VV set that has absolute stinky crit value.
Care for a dance? Dance with me! Be a good audience, won't you?
Ooh, and I get to move around so fast. I forgot about this. Because I get Anima Resonance plus the movement speed bonus from Lost Prayer. Oh, what? I didn't use my Ineffa skill? Can't see my damage numbers. I'm getting like 20 Ks here. I'm getting 20 Ks on my shots. Which is not bad for a team that is not at all focused on
Dance with me!
Aoife's talent damage.
The show's only just begun.
And I cannot see anything that's going on. Okay, last guy. I can probably get a faster clear than this. Oh, okay. I have been held up by the crocodile. Die, crocodile. There we go. Okay, let me restart that. Let me get a faster.
Care for a dance? Dance with me! Be a good audience, won't you?
This Q into E thing is really messing me up on him. I am not used to this being his rotation. Alright, I'm getting used to it.
Dance with me!
Die. That's fine. That was an acceptable clear. I'm actually starting to think that Yelan is actually not very good here because of her bad AoE. Let's try this against a single target just so we can get a better feel for it so there aren't so many numbers on screen. Although the team is going to do a lot worse. After all, I've got the best grouper in the game on my team. Side note, yep, I'm saying it. C6 Faruzan has better grouping than Venti. Yeah, Venti basically disables enemies. They can't do anything for the duration that they're being grouped. But you want to know what C6 Faruzan has? Strong grouping with 100% uptime that doesn't lift enemies off the ground. So half the cast can actually make use of it. You don't need to have special range to use Faruzan's grouping. I'm gonna start using Faruzan as like a dedicated grouper, and everybody will hate me. And I guess I should have bursted. What am I doing now? 18. How much does the burst do? 49, not bad. And I got him down half. That's reasonable. This is not a disgusting team. This could be so much worse. But I do really enjoy these combination electrocharge and talent damage teams. Do I have any others that I really want to look at? Could also try it with Furina, but I don't think this is going to work because I am not building into Aoife's healing at all, so it's just going to be a lot worse. Yeah. Oh, how much are my healing ticks? 300. This is looking a little rough. This is nowhere near enough healing. Yeah, this doesn't work. There's a few things I want to come back to in the future involving like kind of hybrid healer DPS Aoife, because it's really hard to make work. He doesn't have great damage or healing in the first place, so focusing on one is gonna neuter the other. Just completely undercut it, make it almost unusable, which is unfortunate because I really wanted to do something like that. Are there any more quick little teams I wanted to try? It would be really funny if I did like an overvape thing with, I don't know. This is a situation where Mawika would actually be kind of cool, kind of interesting, maybe? Whee! Okay, you know what? This is kind of funny. I'm not gonna do a second rotation. I'm just gonna let him die here. But oh, okay. This is a little bit funny. Fine, whatever. I'll do it in Abyss. Stop pushing me. And I do actually have enough energy on this team. I imagine it's because this is an AoE Abyss. Oh yeah, I'm not getting very high damage procs on Changling. I imagine this is because an AoE Abyss. And the enemies are dropping a lot of particles. I don't think I would have enough if this were not the case. It could be doing a lot worse. It could be doing a lot worse. I can tell you that much. I don't know how many. God, this is terrible. Okay. I've gotten way better clears on that chamber, and that is actually usually the chamber you're supposed to clear fairly fast, because this chamber just takes a very long time. There's a lot of stall between the lava guy and the hamster. That was okay. I could optimize that to be better. No particular synergy though, just kind of units dealing damage. I was not getting any waves off Xiangling, and Mawika would probably make it a lot more controllable. Or Dea, if you have Dea constellations and you want to build an off-field DPS Dea, there you go. I think it's just raw DPS Aoife time. I was playing this team previously. It does do numerically fine, but having no shield against this first half really sucks. This is the Ineffa Abyss, especially with Aoife. Like, you can do it with other characters. Aoife no shield versus this half is just kind of disgusting. Let me show it off. And, oh, you know what? Bursting early actually has its merits. There we go. All right, I'm getting 50Ks. I'm gonna keep bursting first, even though it's like technically not the thing I should be doing. Like for DPS. Oh, there we go. There's our first. There we go. There's combo. There's us getting comboed. Yeah, I'm still like not getting a good time. Yeah, this is like not a good time, and I don't think I'm gonna try to push for a better one. I might, like, I could be able to. I could push for a better time. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do like 2 more runs. What I've been saying about the burst, I need to stay on track. I've been saying this about the burst. C4 gives you 100 EM buff, makes it group better, makes you want to use it before you use his skill in his regular rotation. Grouping is good, EM buff is good. And if you use it during his skill, his Night Soul bar continues to go down while it's being used, so you lose some shots. And also you lose a little bit of Bennett uptime, a little bit of Furina uptime. But I'm finding that doing the burst first to help with grouping can actually help towards getting faster clear times. This is a very kind of wonky side to play this against. The consistency is pretty low, but I'm getting around minute and 40-second clears. Oh my god, and I just keep getting stunned out of stuff. I keep getting stunned out of stuff. Yeah, this is just rough. I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to keep grinding at it. Anyways, that side is really, really bad for DPS Aoife. And the other side is maybe a little bit too good for DPS Aoife because there's a 75% Night Soul damage bonus. Guess what? He deals Night Soul line damage. And he actually does have pretty good matchups into this abyss. Maybe I will clear. Maybe I will clear. Who knows? I'm just trying to get a clear here, okay? I actually have not used Nuvolette in this abyss yet. What if I just give Nuvolette bad pieces? What if I just give Nuvolette bad pieces? What are you guys gonna do about it? You still gotta clear anyways. What if I just gave him stinky doo-doo garbage? What are you gonna do about it? Let's ruin this abyss with the overcapped Nuvolette. Look at how much easier this all is without, or with the shield. Oh no, this is not gonna be an easy clear. Furina need more ER. Furina need more ER. There we go. That was like a worse clear, but I think I can still do it. Do your thing. I'm gonna get no uptime in Bennett Burst. I am. Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah, do your thing. Thank you. Easy. Literally easy. This is actually the hardest chamber though, so it's not actually that surprising that I needed to do a little optimization. Oh, and ER, I'll take that, thank you very much. Ah, God. I don't know if it's gonna work. No, it's not. Alright, there it is. Please. I actually find that I am mostly using Aoife's Burst for damage avoidance when I am playing him as a DPS. It does a little bit of damage, but I think it's far more valuable when you use it to iframe an attack that would have knocked you out of the air otherwise. So for DPS Aoife, the exact timing of the burst is it's fluctuating a lot. Wait, does he not stay in Night Soul long enough to activate this? Oh, that's really rough. Oh, I might not be able to complete this. Okay, long story short, the automaton requires Aoife to go into his Night Soul state 2 times to get the stun, because he doesn't stay in his Night Soul state long enough to get it in 1. I really thought he was going to be able to stun this boss in just 1 Night Soul window, and the fact that he didn't really threw me off. I grinded for a few hours to try to get it clear. This was the best that I could do. Could I put my nose to the grindstone and continued for like another 2 hours and maybe get a clear? Yes. Do I think that getting within 2 seconds of a clear is proof enough? Also yes.
Let's go.
Everybody stand!
Nothing personal. Find the wind.
Not much to say about DPS Aoife. There is a little bit of nuance when it comes to the burst, when exactly you want to cast it, and you probably also do want to get it up higher than this because it does have a real multiplier attached to it. This thing isn't doing nothing, it's not wasting your time. But when it comes to team building, when it comes to most of his playstyle, it's very simple. Bennett, Faruzan, Furina, and then you press E, and you do some attacks. You hold that button, it's not very hard. And for a character who is so easy to execute, I won't say he's easy to play because him getting knocked out of the air really does hurt. For a character that's so easy to execute, he does a pretty solid job. He was able to make decent work of an okay Abyss. It's not incredibly challenging, it's not incredibly easy. I actually really enjoy the difficulty of this Abyss, finding it to be a very nice sweet spot. It does have a very beneficial buff for him, but I still find that it's impressive he can do this well in a role that he is not meant to fill. I think that's actually gonna be everything today. Let's go to the Flower Feather Clan! Flower Feather Clan! Aoife is one of those characters who is really solidly okay. He is decent. He is functional. He's not particularly incredible, but he does his job and he does it well enough. And I like him a lot because of all the little oddities that exist in his kit. And also, he is attractive. I am attracted to Aoife. That is why I'm making this video. I don't think I really talked about it very much, but seeing as I started this video with no constellations and ended it with 4, I have really felt the impacts of really all of his constellations. Aoife isn't one of those units who feels like a completely different character without his cons, but they are impactful. As someone who has played a lot of C0 Aoife and is just getting the constellation playstyle, they are impactful. They contribute a lot to making him feel better. Now, I think that's kind of everything. Aoife is neat, he has 2 playstyles, he has some interesting cons, so I think it's just time for the channel member shout out. Yippee! Thank you channel members, thank you channel members. We have got Zach ZDR, Starnova, SJ, Najoro, Rumpelitus, Dorsal from twitch.tv/dorsalfin1, Pegby, Penguin, Dottiz, Pyre's Flower, Dew, and our 2 newest members, Mudkill Kip172, and is either Davi or Davy Avila? It's one of the two. I don't know. Join my Discord and let me know which one. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. This kind of feedback has been absolutely incredible to see. I didn't think I would be getting any members past like 5. And now we're rocking 13. Thank you all so much. That's it for EFO 101. I hope you guys learned something. Have a lovely day.